Thank you for being here today. My name is Kent Sharkey, the President and CEO of Uliance. We provide employee assistance and other human resource services throughout the country. And I want to remind people to silence their phones. And this session will be recorded. If you're interested in purchasing the on-demand version, you can go to the My SHRM registration, and that's available for you as well. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Linda Jordon, and she is a highly sought-after speaker, leadership expert, coach, trainer, and author. With over 30 years of professional leadership, Dr. Jordon has created LRJ Coaching and Business Solutions to help women improve their communication skills and change their mindsets so that they can live the life that is best for them. Dr. Jordon inspires clients to illuminate their potential so they can and have the life that they want and deserve. She helps clients transition from corporate life to being their own business owners. Dr. Jordon is the founder of LRJ Coaching and Business Solutions, where she is a leadership consultant and personal development coach, author, and international speaker, focusing on leadership, diversity and inclusion, and organizational change management. Let's have a welcoming round of applause for Dr. Jordon.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. How is everybody doing? Let's try that again. I know it's after lunch. You've had a little break. How is everybody doing? That's so much better. I like energetic rooms, so it will be very interactive. So get ready. So today we're going to talk about a new kind of diversity, working with multi-generational teams. Let's see. What happened? Oh, there it goes. It's delay, yeah, evidently. So what can you expect today? We're going to talk about generations in the workforce, ways to connect and collaborate. We'll have it says table discussions, but we'll have discussions here. We'll work around that. But most importantly is to have fun. And when you leave this session, I want you to have some next steps to put into place when you get back to the workforce. Does that sound good to everybody? Yes. Okay. All right. So I do something a little bit differently. I don't know if you've used this before, but it's called Mentimeter. So it's an interactive presentation. It allows you to see your slides at your phone because everybody's always looking at your phones anyway, right? So why not? So you can scan the barcode or go to mentimenti.com, enter the code 85006808. Did everybody get that? All right. No worries. I like doing these because presentations can be a little boring. I don't want you to go to sleep. I want you to remember something that you learned when you left here. So that's the reason I do that. Everybody good? Let's try it again. Everybody good? Yes. All right, let's get rocking. All right, so just to give you a little bit more about me, that's my husband and my lovely daughter. But I'm a breast cancer survivor, 9 years as of February of this year. Thank you. And so that's when I decided to start my own business. I am an online professor with Cornell University, and these are a couple of books that I do, and I'm a real estate investor. So just a few highlights about me. So now you're going to get to play a little bit with your phones, and we're answer this one question. So I want to know who is in the room. Just put what your job title is. You don't have to put your name. You can create any character that you want. If anyone's ever used Mentimeter or a tool similar to this, you kind of know how it works, right? I hope that's a yes. All right, let's see who's in the room with me today. Bless you. A few more responses still coming in. But it looks like we have the largest group is HR managers and HR generalists. So as the letters get bigger, that's the majority of who's in the room. So pretty good. We've got some HR business partners. And if I'm in you guys' way, please just say, step out the way. I don't mind. Regional HR manager, employee engagement. We've got deputy of HR director, senior manager of HR consultant, but lots of HR people. Awesome, awesome. But again, the majority is the HR manager and the HR generalist. So thank you all for participating. Now, wasn't that kind of fun? A little bit different, right? All right, the next question is, now I've told you what my expectations are of what I want to do for you today, but you tell me, what would you like to get out of the session today? What's the one thing that you hope to learn today? Because I want to make sure I do cover that. What do you hope to learn today? Actionable takeaways, yes. Applicable strategies. Something new. Collaboration skills between generations. Team collaboration ideas. Everything. That covers everything. Again, something new. Leading multiple generations. How to lead and support leaders in a multi-generational. Okay, so lots of great comments. Awesome, awesome. I think I can cover most of that for you. And if I don't, please let me know. And we'll make sure that I follow up with you. So, does anyone know anybody in the room? You all know each other? Yes and no? Maybe so. So, we'll just do a small, quick intro, making connections. But I want you to connect with someone that you don't know in the room. Someone you haven't met during this conference. Introduce yourself to 3 people that you don't know. That didn't take long. Y'all like to talk. 3 people that you don't know. Has everybody gotten the 3 people that you don't know? Oh, very nice. Nice to meet you. Awesome. I'll give you about 30 more seconds. All right, time's up. Everybody good? Did you get at least 2 people that you haven't met before? What did you learn when you met someone? Did you learn anything? What did you learn? Where they work, where they went to school? Awesome. Anybody else learn anything new? Nobody learned anything new? What their middle name was. See how easy that was? That was so easy, right? So why do we struggle in the workforce when we're trying to make connections? That was so simple. Y'all didn't give me time to say start. Y'all just started talking. You just went for it. But in the workplace, it doesn't work that way. Why is that? Why? Scared to be personable. What else?
We're so focused on the bottom line.
Focused on the bottom line. Right. We are so busy because we got so much to do. We don't have time to talk to people. We're just focused on the bottom line. That's the most important thing that leaders do, is focus on the bottom line. But we really need to focus on the people. You have to meet people where they're at. I could talk about that all day, but I won't. So what we're going to do is something a little fun. Anyone seen these birds before? Yes? Okay. Well, pretend like you haven't. We're going to do an activity. So, I have 4 birds posted up. There's a dove or pigeon, whatever you want to call him or her, is over there. I have an owl back here by the back door on the left. Over here I have an eagle, and over here I have a parakeet. So what I want you to do is to stand up. Let's all stand up. You know, like in first grade, let's stand up. Walk to the bird or the picture that you connect with. Walk to the bird that you connect with. Pigeon or a dove, whatever you want to call him or her. The eagle, the owl, or the parakeet. Which one do you connect with most? Oh my, I've got lots of parakeets. But I've got a whole lot of owls over here. Whole lot of owls. Does everybody have a bird that you connect with? Okay. Well, we're going to start with the pigeon or dove. What do y'all want to be? Pigeons or doves? Doves. Okay. We'll take 2. What made you want to come to be a pigeon or a dove? Who wants to go? This is interactive, you know, participation. Yes, ma'am.
I thought it looked very elegant, put together, calm.
Same. Who's different? Anybody else?
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Okay. All right. Now my owls over here. A bunch of them. Who connected with an owl? Tell me why.
Well, I'm old, so I like to fancy myself as somewhat wise.
All right.
In our role now, I started our organization. I was the really young one. Now it seems like I've transitioned to being one of the older ones. So I'm like the wise old owl. They all come to me for information. I feel you.
It's called mature, not old. Mature. All right. Now let's go over here to my parakeets. Woo. You see why they're over here, right? I don't even need to ask. What's this shirt be?
Oh, I'm a yapper, and I feel like parakeets definitely yap a lot. We're definitely a lot more like loud, and I feel like it's very colorful. Yes, and I wear a lot of colors. Love, love, love them. So I feel like I can definitely relate.
Dynamic. Yes.
Thank you so much. I didn't need to say anything else after that. Now I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. My eagles in HR. What made you come to be an eagle?
Powerful.
Strong, powerful. What else? Diplomacy. Supervisor. Always. Ooh. All righty. So, if you've never heard of DISC, this is what DISC is about. And it's about communication styles. Because when you want to meet people where they are, you kind of have to meet people where they are. So for my eagles over there, they are D's for dominant. They're daring, decisive, direct, and driven. For my parakeets, they're in yellow, lights of color. They're influential, imaginative. They focus on intuition, and they're very inspirational. They love to have conversations. Right. They've never met a stranger in the elevator. Then my doves are pigeon. They're steadfast. They're sincere, sympathetic, and satisfied. And they're steady. And then my owls, the mature group, they're very compliant, conscientious, cautious, critical, but they're very consistent. So think about it. 4 different groups, 4 different styles of communication. It doesn't mean that because you are a pigeon today that you won't be an eagle tomorrow. That just means that's how you naturally relate to people when you communicate. Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, all those different games and colors, things of that nature. But this is how you're truly wired. You won't really know how you're truly wired until you actually do the DISC assessment. But this gives you an idea when you're communicating with individuals. Pay attention to body language. If you're talking to someone and they walk forward to you, they probably want to have a conversation. But if they step backwards, they're probably thinking, no, don't want to have that conversation, right? So was this helpful? Yeah. You learned something new? Yeah. Awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, you can have your seats. So for those that participated in the poll question that I asked, and I think I did mention DISC. If you want to learn more about that, just connect with me. But I use it very often in working with organizations because whether you are having troubles with an employee, with your manager, or with HR, or with anyone, the bottom line, it all boils down communication, because we don't know how to communicate with each other. When you learn how to communicate with each other, then things can be very different. Because that's why there's a generational gap that's going on. Nobody knows how to talk to each other anymore. We tolerate each other. We tolerate each other. And it's very easy to stereotype. I think the young lady said earlier, said earlier that she was older, and I said, let's use mature, been there a long time. Different generations can come in and they'll stereotype. The old people, you still here? Doing things the way you always did, you don't want to change? Trust me, I was one of those old people. But I quickly learned that I had to adjust because there were new people coming in the organization and they wanted to do things very differently. And I wasn't always as open-minded, but once I had my daughter, I realized, oh boy, things got to change. So has anyone heard of any of these topics or questions or statements or complaints that have been in the workforce? All those builders are just dinosaurs. All those baby boomers are just stubborn. They don't want to change. All those Gen Xers are skeptical. They don't trust anybody. All those millennials. Ooh, I won't even say that. All those Gen Zers are fragile. Y'all just little snowflakes. Nobody can touch you. You'll just break. Anybody heard any of those? Yeah. But all you had to do is just have a conversation with someone. But oftentimes we don't do that. So our goal is not to stereotype, but really is to truly understand the individual. Again, meet them where they are. I'm sorry, I'll go back. I try to pay attention. Just say, hey, stop. You're going too fast. So, as we all know, everybody has families, right? Do you get along with everybody in your family? Probably not. There's different generations in your family, right? There's different dynamics, different personalities, different beliefs and values, to some degree. But same like in the workplace. Your vendors, your colleagues, your supervisor, your clients, they're all going to think differently and act differently and have different behaviors than you do. You just have to learn how to adjust and how to communicate with them, right? Because if you don't, what's going to happen? Ring, ring, they're going to be calling HR, right? To do an employee relations complaint or have a discussion about someone said something that offended them, right? Y'all know y'all get the phone calls. I did employee relations for about 6-7 years, and it was always something a little different. I'll just say that. So these are the 5 generations of age. Everyone's seen this before, right? So the builders, they're classified as the silent generation. They were born in 1929 to 1945. Those were the individuals that were very grateful just to have a job. And it was all about showing them respect. And for them, it was about the goods that they provided. Those were my parents. I am in the boomer section, born 1946 to 1964. My thought process was that I deserve better. But I wanted to replace the people that were leading me. And it was about services, providing services to others. Then comes along the busters, Generation X, 1965 to 1982. They are all about keeping it real. They're just going to endure authority because they don't really like them, but they'll just deal with it. And it's all about experiences for them. The other stuff they don't necessarily care too much about, but it's really about the experience that they're having. Then we have our Gen Ys, or millennials. My daughter's a millennial. 1983 to 2000, life is a cafeteria. It's a buffet. They just want to pick and choose what they want. And that's how they look at authority. Their mark is all about transformation, how to build themselves up, how to fulfill their potential. So my daughter and I are very different. we have lots of conversations. I've had to get her off the edge several times because she calls and she says, Mom, this manager, because she's done management before, and she's like, Mom, the supervisor doesn't know how to manage people. Now, you know, it's kind of hard because that's what I do every day, is to help people be better leaders. And then my daughter learns from me because she went with me to work for 27 and a half years when I worked in corporate America. So she saw and went to meetings, so she understands. And she'll call and she'll say, Mom, why is this manager doing that? You know he shouldn't be doing that, or she shouldn't be doing that. And I'll explain to her. And I was like, Jamie, this is what you have to do. This is the conversation. And then she'll have that conversation to come back. She'll say, Mom, that worked. I was like, didn't you think so? But we have to do that with the younger generation. Oftentimes, we're so busy, we don't do that, and then they leave the organization. And then you have all of that intellectual property gone, and you've got to retrain someone else, right? So how do we keep that in the organization? Then we have our homelanders, Generation Z, born in 2001 to 2015. They're just coping and hoping. That's it. They're just moving right along. They're not sure about authority because they don't really trust them either. So they consume and they create. Now, probably the next 4 years, we'll get the next generation. I'm not sure what letter we're going to come up with. It'll probably be like A or B or AB, something of that nature. But hopefully that gives your perspective around the different age groups. Okay? Any questions on that? So who's still working in the workforce?
All of us.
All of us. Boomers, busters, millennials, and Gen Zs. And that's because there's so many of the millennials and Gen Zs that they're doing something else. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. But unfortunately, age discrimination lawsuits have gone up a little bit. These are just the top 5 so far that have more discrimination lawsuits around age. So where are you in the history wheel? Go to menti.com, enter your code if your phone just went away. Where are you in the history wheel? Ooh, we have a lot of millennials. A lot of busters. A few of us boomers are still hanging on. We're hanging on. And we have a couple in the coronials. Awesome, awesome. Thanks for your participation. So now you know who's in the room. Now you know when you're having a conversation, how you want to start that conversation. But we'll get into a little bit more about that. Did anybody miss that slide? Yeah. Let's go back. Are we good? All right. So clashing generations. So in order to really understand how to communicate with different generations, you kind of have to understand, you know, how they were brought up, how they were designed, basically. Builders, they grew up in the Great Depression. They're very resourceful. They're grateful, again, for just having a job, being alive, being able to work. And like my mother, she says wrapping paper, or she said wrapping paper. But what's so funny is, so do I. I learned it from her, and I'd save wrapping paper. My daughter, who's a millennial, she said, Mom, why are you saving that wrapping paper in that bow? I don't know. My mom did it. She's like, so what's so funny is now when I go to her house, what do you think she's saving? Wrapping paper and plastic bags. She says, well, I'm going to use them as trash liners. I'm like, okay, good. That works. Then we have the baby boomers, which I am. It's the time of the expansion in the economy. We had lots of questions. And there was no depression. Life was great. Everybody was working. Then the Gen X comes along. Those are raised by parents during the Vietnam War and Watergate. So a lot of things happen there. So children are going to be a little bit differently. Our Gen Ys, they're raised by parents focused on safety, self-esteem, status, and life was customized. So it was. Again, my daughter's a millennial. She had things that I would have never gotten as a child. But because life was a little bit better for me, that time of expansion in the economy, I could afford that. So her behaviors changed based upon how she was brought up. Her thought processes changed. And then we have the Gen Zs. Today's children, they're focused on safety as well, because we're in the middle of 3 recessions. There's mass shootings going on, the pandemic we've survived, lots of anxiety going on in the world and in the workplace, and there's a lot of mental health issues. So you have to be very mindful of that. And I don't have to tell you that you're HR. You have to be very mindful of that for people that come into the workforce and how you communicate with them. Because how you communicate with that person can have an impact on them for the rest of their life. Because you don't know where someone's coming from when they come into the workforce. Yeah, you may come in all happy and smiley, putting on that grin to go to work, but they're hurting inside. And so if you don't have that conversation, you're not going to connect with them. And they may not connect with you, but at least you did try. That's the most important thing. Questions? All right. So which group is no longer in the workforce? Make sure you're paying attention. Which group is no longer in the workforce? This should be an easy one. Builders. 33% of you got that right. Okay. All right. Which generation has the replace them attitude when it comes to authority? Everybody getting a chance to answer? Everybody good? Let's see what the answer is. Boomers. 23% of you got that correct. So why, tell me who, well, I won't do that because I don't want to disclose who said what. Moving along, we'll talk about that later. All right, so next, we're gonna have a group discussion. You can do it any way that you choose. It can be 10 of you, 5 of you, how you want to break it up, or turn to the person that's behind you. But I want you to have some group discussions, because we're going to talk about these 2 things that are very important. Where do you see evidence in generational differences in your team or on your team or in the office? Number 2 is, what are some of the positive elements in the various generations where you work? Everybody understand the assignment? Number 1, where do you see evidence of generational differences in your office or in your team? And then what are some of the positive elements in the various generations where you work? I'll give you 10 minutes. Ready, set, go. So what do you guys do today?
But some positive operations.
Okay? Which makes it difficult for me because I can't support my internal
It is a catch-22. What do you think of the respect from the leadership standpoint? Everybody's accurate. Great discussion. Keep going. I give you two more minutes.
Don't want to hear about that. Yeah.
Don't broke it if you did, or don't fix it if it ain't broke.
They got work to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. They got work to do. Okay, let's bring it back in. I know you're all having great discussions, and I hate to interrupt, but I want to be respectful of time and make sure I get you out. I did sit in on two groups to hear what they were chatting about. Great discussions. But let's go to someone just to share who you all were a group. Weren't in a group? It's not a trick question.
One of the difference as far as evidence was our communication. Whether it was the way we communicated as far as emails go, or just the generations avoiding each other in the workplace. So that's what we found fascinating. So
Avoiding each other. Ooh. Sounds mysterious. All right, we'll go to this side of the room. I want to make sure I balance things out. Who on this side of the room wants to share what you guys talked about? Anyone? They're so silent. Okay. Then I'll come back to you. Got her hand raised, so we'll go back here.
That's because I'm colorful. Because I'm an eye. Yeah. So, did you want our answer for all of our answers for number one? Okay. Well, so where do you see evidence of oh, sorry, you don't need me to read the question. Well, certainly in the use of technology. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. And those in perhaps the older generation, not that I am one, writing on paper, but, you know, the need to keep things on paper, whereas younger generations are like, no, I got it, it's in the cloud, we don't need to do that. The whole in-office versus remote. And then just even working flexible hours versus traditional hours, oh, no, 8 to 5, 8 to 5. Well, younger generations are like, well, I can get that work done, after I've watched my Netflix shows at 10:30 or 11 at night. If they can get the work done and it still be productive, when does it matter when they get it done? So.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Give yourselves a round of applause. Celebrate your wins. But that's correct. I mean, it's 9 to 5, 8 to 5. What is that? There's no such thing anymore. It's if you get the job done, you get the job done. Doesn't matter what time you have to come in or don't. So that's the piece that people do struggle with. That was just letting me know about our timer. Where's that? So thank you all for participating. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the contributions from the different groups. I want to make sure I stay on time. So contributions from boomers. They love to tell stories. Share their experiences on the job, lessons they learned from their younger days, way back when, in the 1970s, Awareness of pitfalls, coaching, and mentoring. And that, for a boomer, that's really what they're looking for. So that's the contributions that they bring to the organization. Now, the best way to connect with a boomer is to, number one, recognize their experiences. Don't disregard that. Ask them to share their experiences with you, because that makes them feel good about what they've done in the past, and they're passing that on to someone else. Do not micromanage them, because they don't like it. You hear it over here in the Amen Corner. Don't micromanage them. Ask them for their feedback, because they want to share. They really want to help. And remind them of their younger years when they were impatient, because we were at one point. We just forgot about it. So that's the best way to connect with a boomer. I'm a boomer. If someone wants to connect with me, the best way is to, if I start talking, you just, yes. Right, exactly. Now, when it comes to the Gen Xers, their contributions that they bring to the organization is, again, they're keeping it real. They are the most authentic people that I have met, the Gen Xers. But they are focused on work-family balance. They want to make sure that you are resourceful in the workplace. And they will challenge the status quo. Just because it worked before doesn't mean it's going to work now. So you've got to figure out how you're going to manage that situation or have that conversation with that individual. Now, the best way to connect with them is to listen, but communicate with understanding. Just don't say yes, and then they ask you a question, and you're like, what was that? Because they know you weren't paying attention. They're on their toes. Allow them to function outside of the office. Again, remote work. But be very honest with them. Give them places that they can have an authentic community and conversations. But also influence them through relationships, not your position. Because these individuals, you can offer them a sign-on bonus, and they don't want it. They don't want it. Whereas the boomer, you offer a sign-on bonus, sign me up. But they are focused on, will that give me enough time for work and family? Because that's most important to them. So you can't throw money in front of them anymore. I see a lot of organizations that have, now they're up to like a $10,000 sign-on bonus. And you're like, why do they still have job openings? Nobody wants that anymore. If they don't have the flexibility to do the things that they need to do and want to do, they don't want that job. They'll go do something else where they can get it. It may not be the job that they want, but it has the benefits that they want. And you got to remember, these individuals, they're not focused on retirement. They may think about 401k, but not focused on retirement like boomers like me. That's what I was focused on. Go to college, get a job, retire after 30 years. Because that's what my parents said. The new generation is not like that. My daughter's a millennial. She's not like that. She's like, retirement? I'm not old enough for that. She says, I'll think about that when I get old. I'm like, okay. But it's a different process. It's a different thought process. Questions on this so far? All right, contributions of the Generation Y. Confidence, bringing energy to the team, tech savvy, love of family, creativity, social, and optimistic. That's what they bring to the team. Now, the best way to communicate with them, let them share their ideas. See, there's some commonalities regarding the boomers here. Tell the truth, be honest with them, Celebrate any and all progress because they love those mini wins. You keep doing those mini wins, you'll bring them in a little bit more. Manage by objectives. Just don't say, we need to get this project done. They want to see what are the goals and objectives, and they want to be challenged. And they want you to meet your expectations as well. So you got to really do a good job there. And it's all about mentoring them, not managing them. Mentoring is so very important. Share your experiences with them, and then they're on board. That's why my daughter calls me all the time, because she knows I've been through all of that. So she'll ask me, how did you handle this situation? Oddly enough, my nephew actually called me today. He's dealing with a situation, and he's like, Linda, he goes, how do I handle this? So we had a 45-minute discussion. But they know and understand. So mentor them, not manage. Now, contributions for our Gen Zs, they have the hacker mindset. They're very entrepreneurial, supportive of a mission or a cause. Social media, they're going to monetize on YouTube all day long. I don't know how they do it, but they do. That's why they don't need to go into corporate space. They're making the money that they want that will support their lifestyle through social media. And then you wonder why you've got so many job openings. Because they can sit at home with their jammies on and have their technology and just go to town. They don't have to get dressed and go in the office. And if they want to know something, what do? They Google it. They Google it. Now, the best way to communicate with them, listen and affirm, provide them with a sense of purpose, give them short-term commitments. Don't come out there with this 16-month project because they've already thought, oh my goodness, what is this? Give them short-term, 60 days, 30 days, 90 days. Don't go over a year because they're going to get bored with it. They've moved on to something else. Discuss personal values with them and help them become value-driven. Build a relationship with them before expecting trust, because you have to earn their trust. You have to earn it, and that's going to be a little bit harder than previous age groups. Questions on that? So we have a few more minutes. So we'll take 5 minutes. You can do the same groups that you talked with before, but what I want you to talk about is, what have you already done to bridge some of these generational gaps in your workplace? And then share a time when you learned something interesting or helpful from someone in a different generation. What have you already done to bridge the gap? Or we can do it as open and people can share. I'm flexible. Would y'all like to do it? Everybody hears everything? Okay. So, who's first? Yes, ma'am.
So I had a fantastic young person work for me on a mentoring internship, and he was great. And I'm pretty good with computers, despite the fact that I'm a boomer. But he was marvelous because he was, 22. And I just learned so much from him. I learned so much about Excel and all these little tricks, things that they don't teach you. And we're still keep in touch. I mean, it's been 15 years and we still keep in touch. So a very good, very positive relationship. He learned a lot about HR from me. I learned a lot about computers from him. It was a great reverse mentoring.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Who else? Nobody else has anything to share? Not a soul. Come on. I'll come over here, then I'll come back to you. If you don't share, how are you going to know, right?
Yeah, we're a company of engineers, so we have a lot of engineers that have been in the field for 30 years, and then we have an internship program of engineers. And so we found about a year and a half ago that gap was growing even in institutional knowledge and not just the mentorship piece. So September of 2023, we launched a mentorship program, then also a peer advisor program, which somebody who's been at the company for 2 years or more is paired up for 3 months with a new hire. So it's kind of like a cultural mentorship, but then also a professional mentorship. So it's like a 2-level mentorship program.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We did something similar in our organization. It's called reverse mentoring. And to me, I look at that as just being very strategic, because what often happens is that companies don't do that until what happens? Somebody's called HR to say, I'm taking early retirement. And then the department is scrambling because this one person probably has been there for 30 plus years. They know everything. They've done everything. They have no notes because there's no desktop procedures anywhere. And then people are scrambling. Then you're in that process improvement thought process around, how do we replace this person? So now you got to hire 2 people to do one person's job. But if you do reverse mentoring, you resolve that issue. And that allows the younger generation to learn before that person leaves. That builds a better relationship. So now they're not thinking about them as a baby boomer or as an old timer. They're looking at them as a mentor, someone they can trust, and someone they'll probably call when they leave the organization themselves, right? You have to think about that for yourself as well. When I left the organization, I wrote out everything that I possibly did, every procedure that I created. I had everything on a flash drive because I didn't want my team to struggle when I was gone, because I replaced myself with someone who I thought fit that position, because during that time I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm like, okay, can't do this anymore. So I did take the time to do that. So for yourself, you have to think about it, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you have to plan in the workplace if something of the nature were to happen. So it's just strategic planning. But having good procedures in place, reverse mentoring is very important. What else? I did miss you, I'm sorry. Okay, say that again. I heard you, but everybody else may.
Creating focus groups or having focus groups like during our all staffs to show that although you have a generation gap, you still have things in common, whether it be the same show, whether it be a book. And then from there, I'm seeing the break room be more lively, and that one person not avoiding walking all the way around to avoid the people in the room.
Right.
So.
No, that's great. Awesome. How many of you have affinity groups in your organization? Ooh, that's low. Let me see those hands again. 1, 2, 3. ERGs, employee resource groups. No one has affinity groups? Okay, let's try this again. Not a trick question. Who has affinity or employee resource groups in the organization? That's a little bit better. Why don't all of you have them in your organization?
We're really small. We're too small for that.
Too small for that? Okay. So it's in our organization, the CEO decided that we needed to have better communication, learn more about each other. So they created groups. They're called, so we had like an all-women's group or a veterans group or Latino Hispanic group. So they had different groups. It doesn't mean just because that's how you identified yourself that you couldn't be a part of that. I became a part of the Latino Hispanic because I have family that speak Spanish, and I needed to learn how to do it. So I joined that group to learn how to better understanding. So it helps with communication and getting to know individuals across your organization. So that's what it's really about. Questions? Anything else anybody want to share?
With the affinity groups, like we have them, but from what I've observed, it's just like-minded individuals going to those groups. So I don't know if we're using them the way that we should be using them.
You're not.
Hi, what we did at Uliance is we restructured our system of promotion. So where a boomer would work in the same position for 10 years and then eventually become a manager, with younger generations, they're like if they haven't been promoted in a year or two. So we developed like senior positions, and so it gives them a stratosphere to progress in, particularly your high potential people.
That's awesome, awesome. Love that, love that. Anyone else? So it depends on how your organization wants to do it. For our organization, oh, my timer went off, sorry. What we did was, It came from the top. And they started with everyone in the organization, do you want to be a leader of one of these teams? So they got the leaders identified. And then after that was done, it was open to all employees across the organization. If anyone wants to be a part of a group, sign up. And then the meetings were scheduled during lunchtime at different times because, you know, when you have different schedules, you want to make sure you're mindful. But it was scheduled so that everyone that wanted to participate had the opportunity to do so. And then they would come up with different events. So, you know, they would celebrate different holidays, different festivities. So it made it so much more interactive. And then they got so big that then they'd have a cultural day. And then every group would participate and they'd have food and stuff like that. So it depends on how large your organization is and how involved senior leadership is, and if they give you the funding to do so, because that's very important. But great question. Thank you for asking. All right, make sure. Okay. So there are some challenges when it does come to collaboration. Mental health challenges or mental health issues could be something that comes about. Some people may have that free agent mindset. They're going to do what they want to do. They don't care about what you think. You have to deal with different personalities, different generations, and then technology. I won't read all of them, but you can see kind of what some of those challenges to collaboration can be. And again, you know, some people are still using Zoom, and it just irks me out when people don't have their cameras on. How can they be involved in a meeting if the camera's not on? Or I don't want to see your ceiling fan. Anybody have that? So, yeah.
Why does that bother you?
Because you're not engaged.
But that's my thing. How do you know? Because I've seen individuals participate in a chat, and I've had one conversation with one lady that she said she just has so much anxiety when it comes to things like that.
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that. And that's the reason I brought it up, is because personally, it doesn't bother me as long as you get your work done. But as a boomer, my people, it bothers us. Because if I can't see you, I don't know that you're participating. Even though you're working hard, it's the perception. And perception to you is reality to someone else. So if you're in the corporate space and you're trying to go up the corporate ladder and you always got your camera off, what do you think? You gonna get hired? Promoted? Not good. Okay, I've got down to 10 minutes. What was that? I missed it. And you see, but now you know, because what we talked about earlier, right? Well, when I say your bosses, but he's probably in that category. Exactly. Exactly. So you got to know who you're talking to, right? So now you know a better way to have that conversation with him or her, right? It makes a big difference.
I think there's some reality. When people are not on camera, they're doing other emails. We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
They're multitasking.
Doing laundry.
When you ask a question, it's like, oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I've done it myself. When the camera's not on, it wasn't for work, but it was for a organization that is after work. And I had my camera off, and I found myself starting dinner. And then they asked me a question. I'm like, oh, can you please repeat that? I heard static. So I'm not good at it. So that's why I don't do it. All right, so the best way to commute with a baby boomer is ask them to share their experiences. Thank you. We got off a little sidetrack. What is not a contribution of the millennials? Which one is not a contribution of the millennials? Correct, for the 11 of you out of 30 that participated. All right, which one is not a challenge to collaboration? Is it technology, various styles, or higher EQ score? Coming in, coming in, coming in. Correct. let's see if it gave me a leaderboard chart. It didn't. It was supposed to give me a leaderboard chart. Oh, well. All right. What changes can you make as you manage work with multi-generational teams? What is one challenge that you think you can make when you go back into the office that you can make with multi-generational teams? One change. Be more open-minded, communicate, listen well, listen actively, communication styles, train managers. That is so very important. I know they will tell you, I don't have time, but they need to make the time. Because the managers are your front line. Your supervisors are part of that front line as well. So they really do need to make the time. Be more patient, more communication, reverse mentoring, yes. Lead with understanding. Be patient with the boomers. Thank you. All right. So at the end of the day, the challenge for you when you go back into the workplace, I want you to do one thing. Learn to be the guide dog. Be the guide dog. Don't be the guard dog. Be the guide dog. Make sure that you help them along the way. You know what a guide dog does, right? It helps that person along the way, gives them direction, gives them support. They can lean on them whenever they need to. Not standing over them, hovering, telling them what to do, how to do it, back to your point of not necessarily having the camera on. But if you set those expectations up front, you don't have to worry about it. But oftentimes we don't set expectations. You have a meeting, the person doesn't have their camera on. You never told them a requirement was to have your camera on, and it's off, and then they get penalized. So it goes back to communication. And if you know someone is an introvert or they're very busy and they can't do certain things, respect that. Questions, comments, concerns. So at the end of the day, make a connection. Build bridges, not walls. It's very simple. Just remember like when you were in first grade. Which parents tell you in first day of school, first grade or kindergarten? Anybody remember what your parents told you? Make friends. Be nice. Right? Make friends. Be nice. I'm sorry, what? Right. So as adults, we just have to do what we did in first grade when our parents told us go to school. Make friends. Be nice. Ask questions. My mother always said, ask good questions. So that's my feedback. I know you guys have one for SHRM, but that's the one for my personal, so you can do that if you choose to. And thank you for your participation, your patience with this boomer, and the ability to interact. I really do appreciate it. But again, go back to your workplace. Make sure you put these actions into place because, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you make a difference in one person's life. That's all I ask of you. Yes, ma'am.